Hello everybody, Andrew Hutchings here, still not a licensed physician, still never giving medical advice, and alcohol. It's very common, it's very well liked by humans, and it's very toxic in large doses. It actually works pretty well with the human body in low doses, such as 1 drink with your meal, perhaps even 2 drinks. But when you get into the 10, 20, 30 drink range, and perhaps that sounds funny, but I mean, really, that's like if you're a man and you're gonna get drunk, you're drinking at least 10 drinks, if not 20 or 30. Not beer, because your stomach can't fit all that. But yeah, alcohol at doses. And people don't typically talk about it as doses of alcohol. They talk about doses of drugs. But alcohol is not a drug, it's just alcohol. No, it is a drug. It's a very toxic drug that for some reason is legal. I mean, not for some reason. It's because it's historically been with humans and it's not. Got a text message. I'm a responsible person. I always check my messages. That's why I hate when people message me when it's not important. I mean, of course, I text my wife funny animal videos, but I don't mean that. Yeah, alcohol, it's been with humans a long time. Europeans have evolved with it. I would never say ban alcohol, make it illegal. That's ridiculous. Alcohol is great, just not when you have to. Not that you have to, just not when you drink a lot of it. In some parts of the world, like California and Amsterdam, there is what could be thought of as an alcohol alternative, which is marijuana, although it's completely and entirely different, and in no way, I guess it's an alternative, it's just not a replacement. Marijuana is not very toxic to the body, very minimally toxic. However, there are a lot of psychological problems that come along with it, and it does disrupt bodily functions and make them subpar. However, if you have to measure physical health from marijuana usage versus physical health from heavy alcohol usage, the marijuana usage is going to beat the heavy alcohol usage. Now, if you have to measure mental health of marijuana usage, or let's just say alcohol usage, not heavy, not light, just alcohol usage, the alcohol user is probably going to have better mental health than the marijuana user. Now, I'm not talking about an alcoholic, because that's a completely different situation. And the person's probably an alcoholic, not because they're born being an alcoholic, as if that's like a thing in and of itself, but because they have issues which drive them to be alcoholic. Yeah, it's not a condition in and of itself. It's a symptom, or it's a result of something else that's going on in them. You eliminate the source, and you eliminate the alcoholism. It's not like you should. It's idiocy how these Alcoholics Anonymous people are like, oh, you just can't ever have another drink. It's the same way we treat a lot of medical stuff. We patch up the symptoms instead of going after the source. Go after the source, and then you can drink whatever you want to drink, and you won't be tempted to guzzle the whole bottle every single time you have 1 drink. But yeah, alcohol usage, like normal alcohol usage, is much less harmful to mental health than marijuana usage. Marijuana usage will make you introverted, will give you anxiety, will make you depressed. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but it's very likely if you use marijuana often. They both will kill your motivation, although marijuana might kill it a bit more. But let's get to the real alcohol alternatives and replacements. Do they exist? Like, is there something you can take instead of alcohol which will produce essentially the same effects but with less bodily toxicity? And the answer is, luckily there is. Sadly, these medications are not allowed. Crazy how we need permission to use medications, permission to get x-rays, permission to get blood work. We shouldn't need permission for medicine. But yeah, these medications are not allowed to be used to save people's health instead of drinking alcohol. People could come up with all sorts of reasons. Perhaps they would just, you don't need to drink alcohol. Well, guess what? You don't need to eat a bag of Doritos, but you still eat your bag of Doritos. And they make healthier alternatives. How come I should be forced to drink alcohol when I want to drink alcohol instead of that healthier alternative? Guess what? If you were to inject 20 milligrams of ketamine before drinking your alcohol or while drinking your alcohol, you could drink way less alcohol with the same effects, which means way less toxicity for the same effects. And guess what? Ketamine is non-toxic. Guess what? Ketamine wears off in about an hour, meaning that, say you decide to drink a beer, inject 20 milligrams of ketamine, and drink another beer, and you get a nice buzz. Well, because it's not very much alcohol, it gets out of your system very quickly. And because the ketamine only lasts about an hour, it gets out of your system quickly, within about 2 hours, you're going to be completely sober, yet you had a nice buzz that would normally require 5 or 6 drinks. But most importantly, it will be essentially non-toxic, because 2 drinks is almost non-toxic, whereas 5 or 6 drinks is a little more toxic. But the real beauty of this is that it can help people avoid drinking 20 drinks, 30 drinks. Now, most people aren't drinking 30 drinks to get drunk, but let me think about how many drinks is considered to be in a bottle of vodka. It's like 15 drinks in a 700 milliliter bottle of vodka. So say you have 15 drinks. That's kind of toxic for the body. Now you could inject 20 or 30 milligrams of ketamine and have 6 drinks. That's a lot less toxic than 15. You may go, but ketamine, what's ketamine? Ketamine is a dissociative anesthetic, which is one of the most effective anesthetics that exists. I personally am very against opioids for severe pain because, well, they don't work for severe pain. Opioids work for moderate pain. If you have severe pain, you don't need a painkiller, aka a pain dampener, to bring it down a little bit. You need an anesthetic to block the pain. Sadly, ketamine is not used often enough as an anesthetic. Now, luckily, some people are able to get ketamine as an antidepressant because a cool side effect of it is that it resets the sensitivity in your brain for excitatory neurotransmitters, and you will feel really nice and refreshed and motivated to do things. You can actually observe this effect from alcohol sometimes. It's just very difficult to both get that effect and get small enough amount of toxicity that you can enjoy that effect. Usually by the time you've blockaded the NMDA receptors in your brain enough from alcohol, you've also intoxicated yourself. So the next day, instead of being refreshed and stuff, you're gonna feel lousy. And now you may be thinking, but how come you have to mix the ketamine with the alcohol? What if you just take the ketamine on its own? You could do that too. I'm a big advocate of that. But in terms of trying to mimic the effects of alcohol with less toxicity, you can essentially mimic the effect of alcohol by mixing just a small amount of ketamine with a small to moderate amount of alcohol. Now, you'll get morons out there saying, that's a deadly combination, or that's toxic, or... No, it's not. Now, if you have enough of them, it is. Just like if you drink enough water, it is. Is it more toxic than alcohol by itself? No. In fact, it's much, much, much less toxic. That's why I'm telling you about it. The key is intelligence. Injecting 20, and by the way, you don't have to inject it. You could sniff it or eat a large amount of it. It's not very orally active. Yeah, of course, you need to use brains and take a small amount, not a massive amount. Because if you take a massive amount and then you drink alcohol, perhaps you will have a problem. Just like if you drink a whole 2-liter bottle of alcohol, you might have a problem. It's amazing how so many things have to be restricted because, if you take this much of it, you're going to kill yourself. You can walk into a grocery store and down a few bottles of alcohol and kill yourself. You can eat a bunch of salt and kill yourself. And if you don't throw up, probably you're not going to kill yourself I don't know actually. You can get your laundry detergent and eat it and kill yourself. Because you can kill yourself is not a good reason for something to be illegal. We need to make everything illegal. What are we going to make windows illegal so you can't jump out of them and kill yourself? Okay, but so how is ketamine versus ketamine mixed with alcohol? So ketamine mixed with alcohol, you're going to have the perfect alcohol effects without the negative side effects like nausea, head spinning, hangover, most importantly, toxicity. But how is ketamine by itself? Well, in low doses, it's similar to alcohol, but it's not alcohol in low doses also is not sedating. It's very difficult to describe drugs, but yes, in low doses, ketamine is similar. I'm not saying it's just like alcohol, because it's certainly not, but it's similar to low doses of alcohol. In higher doses, ketamine becomes sort of like higher doses of alcohol, but with a much clearer head. A lot of the difference is the toxicity of alcohol, so ketamine is an NMDA receptor antagonist and a mild dopamine norepinephrine, perhaps a little serotonin in there as well. I can't remember if it's a reuptake inhibitor or a mild agonist, not really important, it increases those activities. Alcohol also increases, through some mechanism, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin. Primary action is like ketamine, a NMDA receptor antagonist, but unlike ketamine, it's also a GABAergic compound, increasing the activity of GABA receptors. Meaning that alcohol is more sedating at larger doses than ketamine is. Ketamine is not going to have the sedation that alcohol can have. It does not have the toxicity, which changes how it feels. But ketamine, you can also... So alcohol, there's limiting factors for how much you can drink of it. Like, you're going to kill yourself if you drink too much. Or you're going to feel horrible, or you're going to pass out. You get the point. You can't drink infinite amount of alcohol, nor would you want to. Ketamine, you can essentially take infinite amount of ketamine. Now, you can't actually, because there is actually a lethal dose. It's just like there's a lethal dose of popcorn, which will burst your... It's different. So yeah, there is technically a lethal dose of ketamine. Are you going to reach it? Most likely not. It's probably harder to overdose on ketamine than it is to overdose on water, because you've got a lot more availability to water. You would need a lot of ketamine to overdose on. Plus, you gotta get it into you somehow. So unless you decide to just start eating it, like for intentional suicide, because normally you wouldn't eat it because it's not very effective that way, but I mean, if you gotta get a ton of it into you, it'd be too much to, I mean, I guess it's not too much. You could just, no, if you're trying to do it yourself, well, I guess you could load up a gigantic syringe, because the problem is if you loaded up a normal syringe injected, loaded up another injected, you're gonna black out before you can keep putting more in. So you'd have to do a gigantic syringe all at once, or just put a whole bunch of it in a cup and drink it. In other words, it's pretty hard to overdose on ketamine. Now, if you're trying to overdose somebody else on ketamine, of course you could keep injecting more and more while they're already black. Point is, it's extremely safe. But in terms of effects, because you can bring the dosage higher and the NMDA receptor antagonism can get stronger than alcohol, above a certain dose, which is not very hard to exceed because you don't need that much to do this, you will be able to get vastly different effects than alcohol offers, because you can never drink enough alcohol to get these effects. In larger doses, it becomes very dreamlike, very bizarre, especially if you're laying down, perhaps with your eyes closed in a dark room. Much, much different than laying down after drinking 20 shots of vodka. After 20 shots of vodka, you're probably going to lay down with your head spinning and pass out and wake up the next morning not feeling too good. But if you have a large dose of ketamine and you lay down, you could be in a outer space dream dimension, and then 2 hours later, why am I saying 2 hours later? I thought it only lasts 1 hour. Well, duration of effects for drugs is dose dependent. Believe it or not, the more you put in, the longer it takes to get it out. So if you take a lot of it to do outer space travel, it's going to take longer than 20 milligrams to mix with your alcohol to have a nice buzz with no toxicity. Okay, I think I've said enough about ketamine, because there are other things as well. What is another alcohol alternative which really mimics the effects well? GHB. Isn't that the date rape drug? It must be evil stuff. Date rape is bad. GHB must be bad, because that's how things work. No one's ever used alcohol for date rape. No one's ever... Okay, let's toss that stupidity out the window and actually focus on GHB itself. Naturally produced in your brain every single night, non-toxic. For some reason, medical school also likes to leave it out of the curriculum, because it's better if people don't know about this medication. That's the best medication you can take for sleep, because it does not... Most sleeping medications decrease your REM sleep. In other words, they decrease your brain activity. GHB, on the other hand, does not. And it's extremely short-acting, so you wake up the next morning and it's all gone. I mean, you got the metabolites in your bladder that you're going to pee out when you go to the bathroom. But yeah, it's a miracle sleeping medication. I mean, it's not really a medication, it's a natural compound produced in your brain. But most likely the reason they don't like to prescribe it to people is because it feels really good if you don't go to sleep. If you don't go to sleep, you get the best alcohol buzz you've ever had with none of the side effects. You can overdose on GHB. It's not like ketamine. The overdose amount is actually easily reachable. Now, do I think it should be illegal or only prescribed in rare situations because you can overdose on it? No. Do I think 15-year-olds should be getting bottles of it? No. But adults who are responsible should have access to it. Why should an adult be forced to drink toxic alcohol when they can take non-toxic GHB? Plus, there's no calories, just like ketamine has no calories. So say I'm a healthy, responsible adult and a bodybuilder and a health-conscious person, and I don't want to drink toxic alcohol and I don't want the calories. I could take a little bit of GHB and have a nice buzz. And alcohol, people beat their wives when they drink alcohol. I don't. I have a wife, but she doesn't get beat. I drink alcohol, but I don't do beating. When I get drunk, I go to sleep. Now, so some people beat their wives when they get drunk. Chances of beating your wife if you take GHB are lower. Why is that? Because GHB actually feels really good and puts you in a good mood. There's not really anybody who takes GHB and then gets mad and depressed and beats their wife. It's just not how you are if you take GHB. I'm sure one person in the whole world has some weird reaction and would be like that. But it's just not how you are. It's like marijuana. People who smoke weed don't tend to beat their wives like people who drink alcohol. It's just how it is. People who take GHB don't tend to beat their wives like people who drink alcohol. Now, people don't beat their wives because of alcohol. They beat their wives because they've got mental issues. But yeah, GHB overdose potential compared to alcohol is higher. Toxicity is non-existent. Effects are much better. Overall, it's a much superior drug than alcohol. Again, the only issue is that you can overdose on it, and it's not that difficult. So yeah, now you know. So with all of that considered, say I were to draft new laws. I personally would make ketamine completely legal. Nobody's gonna overdose on it, and also, just the way ketamine works, you're probably also not going to beat your wife on ketamine, but who knows? Non-toxic, wears off quicker. There's really no downside. Besides, I guess you'll get some people who just like to take really large doses and travel outer space in their head, which is cool. Like, why not do that? If you like it, do it. But of course, just like with alcohol, you're going to get some people that are addicted to it and just take it every day. Does that make ketamine horrible? No. People can do that with alcohol. The only difference is if they do it with ketamine, they're going to keep their health intact, whereas if they do it with alcohol, they're going to destroy their health. But perhaps that's what you want. Everyone who ever abuses something to destroy their health. Other alcohol alternatives. I mean, those are really the two that can, like, low dose of ketamine plus alcohol can mimic the effects of alcohol and then GHB by itself. Both lead to more desirable effects because you don't have the toxicity. GHB is also just simply far more pleasurable, whereas the ketamine mixed with the alcohol is going to be much more like alcohol. People, especially like when I was younger, they thought it was cool to take Xanax. Like, oh, it's like alcohol, you get drunk, and it's like, no, you don't. It just dampens all of your emotions, and your muscles are all relaxed. And I guess if you're 14 years old, you find that cool. Like, oh, look, now I'm all weak. I can't bench press 300 pounds right now. Like, why should you like that? I hate benzodiazepines. I've had to take them a lot in my life because I had a lot of injuries and nerve damage that caused muscles to spasm and stuff, and had to take benzodiazepines to prevent that. I do not want to take benzodiazepines. I like keeping my excitability normal, my brain function normal, my muscle contractility normal. Yeah, the effects of benzodiazepines is nothing like alcohol. You would never, unless you're stupid, or like a stupid teenager, take a Xanax and go out for a night of fun with your friends. Because you're just going to be like, cool, dude. Versus, you're not going to go party with Xanax. You're going to... I'm really high, right? It doesn't get you high, but like teenagers think that it's cool to be all zombied out. What else? I don't think I need to mention like meth is not an alcohol replacement, MDMA is not an alcohol replacement, opioids are not an alcohol replacement. Now, I'm not going to get into designer drugs in terms of medications that are well researched, or in the case of GHB, naturally produced in your human body. You got ketamine and GHB. Both pretty much non-toxic. I will toss out there that if you abuse a ton of ketamine like every day for years and years and years and years, you might get bladder damage. I've never seen it happen, and I've seen people who abuse it a lot for years and years and years and years, and I've never seen it happen. Who knows, maybe they've got issues. Hope you like this video. Check out my other videos. Wow, I spent a lot of time, but it's something I'm kind of passionate about because yeah, we're not perfect. We don't all want to go through life sober 100% of the time. But if we choose to alter our mind, why should we be forced to take toxic alcohol? I love beer. I love drinking beer with my meal. But if I want to buzz, I mean, I can do it with beer, but still I'm going to feel a little bit lousy next day. But like if I want to get drunk, like recently I decided, because I had a break from school, and I don't drink alcohol that often, besides like a beer with my meal. But I decided, today I want to get drunk. Now by drunk, I don't mean vomiting and miserable. I mean nicely drunk. I wanted to get drunk and go walk around and enjoy the nice sunny day. It sounded nice to me. So I ended up drinking a bottle of vodka, half a bottle of gin, and some beers. Well, that's pretty toxic. It would have been much nicer just to inject 20 milligrams of ketamine and have 4 beers. But, especially here in Belarus, where it's illegal, I'm not going to do that. In California, not so illegal. Well, California, they don't have laws really anymore. You can just walk into a store and take whatever you want and walk out, and police aren't going to do anything. I think that's horrible. But yeah, never break the law. You know what's worse than some toxicity from alcohol? Rotting in prison for 5 or 10 years. Hope you like this. Please like, subscribe, and comment. I've got a website, andrewhutchings.org, where you can hire me for consultations, coaching, plans, whatever on health, fitness. No medical advice, but it's not advice if I don't tell you to do it. It's just medical information. I've got a book on tendinitis, a systematic guide to defeating tendinitis. If you've got tendinitis, I recommend you go on Amazon right now. You type that in, a systematic guide to defeating tendinitis. You find the fastest shipping option. You get it as soon as you can, so you get your life back. You start enjoying your life, because you don't get time back. And I'm thinking about that with this 30-minute video. I'm not ever going to get this time back. But I think it's important that people know about this. And hopefully someday, instead of deciding that I want to enjoy the day with an altered mindset and having to drink a half of alcohol, I can just drink a few beers and take a little shot of ketamine, and that's that. Oh, and I've got an Instagram, natural_true_fitness.